At 5-0, a very comfortable win indeed for Portugal. 24 shots in total, an easy 3 points to kick off their World Cup qualifying. Nathan Manua joins us as well, but as always with Portugal, there is one big talking point, and that is Cristiano Ronaldo, Craig Burley. Yes, it is. Because when Roberto Martinez took over, you said this is the perfect opportunity to move Ronaldo to one side.
Who said that?
You did.
Yes, I stand by that.
That's what my question was. Were you wrong about that, given what he's done?
No, what has he done?
He scored goals, a lot of them, all the time.
He had some success in the Nations League.
Yes.
That replaces the international friendlies. It's not really a big deal. He scores a lot of these goals and at this stage of his career against the Armenias and the Liechtensteins and other teams like that. The question remains, and I don't want to go over all ground in my head again, the question remains, when he's been at the top level against the bigger teams in the European Championships and the World Cups, he's either been anonymous or he's been dragged off. Now, that remains the million-dollar question. Well, it's not a million-dollar question for me. I've seen what the answer is going to be. Is that by the time the World Cup comes along in North America here in, 10 months' time, give or take, the weaker teams in the groups, he'll be okay, but it's when it gets to these bigger games in the knockout stages.
But you mentioned the Nations League, obviously against Spain. He scored against Spain. Eventually they'd win the penalty shootout. Spain, arguably the best team in the world.
But look, Roberto Martinez and other coaches that are managing the more elite nations, am I supposed to go down this list here?
No, the list is just there just to prove the point that he has scored goals against bigger teams than Armenia. And when you look at the fact he scored against Germany, he scored against Spain, obviously. He didn't score against Scotland. That was the one anomaly.
There still remains the question whether it's the right thing to do to go into a World Cup with a very talented Portuguese team. I'm not going to go on a rant about Cristiano Ronaldo because he is an amazing professional and an unbelievable football player. And to have the desire to still do it for a club in Saudi Arabia and for your country at this stage of his career, after everything that he's achieved in the game, is incredible. Him and Messi, I don't think, and you know this, I don't think we'll ever see the like again as a twosome. 50 goals a year, give or take, assists, Champions League, league titles, carrying teams on their shoulders, you name it. They've done it, he's done it. The big question remains with this talented Portuguese side under Roberto Martinez, is he going to be flagging at the World Cup and they're carrying him, or can he somehow muster up some more performances? If you look back at the last Euros and the last World Cup, the answer is they're carrying him. So whether he does it or not in the Nations League and whether he does it or not in these qualifiers against weaker opposition is neither here nor there. Recent history is telling you that he struggled in the major competitions, and has Roberto Martinez, A, got the stomach to make the change if need be, and B, maybe got the personnel to make the change. But fair play, João Felix is scoring, that's telling you all you need to know, because he's had his struggles. So I admire Cristiano Ronaldo for, not just for the talent, the supreme talent that he has and what he's achieved in the game, but the fact that he's still out there when he could easily be sat just living the life, in some villa near the ocean or whatever it is he does. But he's out there trying to churn out results. I'll give him credit for that. But I think in my mind there's a massive question mark about how they go into the World Cup with him as the number 9.
Nathan?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard that perspective that Craig's had before, but then I think we could also apply that to a few other strikers as well. And I think some of those attributes or things which sort of get held against players, scoring in those big games and so on, scoring goals against like smaller opposition and the like. That almost sounds a bit to me like the same way we discussed, say, maybe a Harry Kane. Somebody that we see at club level dominate, scores so many goals. And then for England, he's staying out there extra long this time against Andorra because, let's get more goals. It's a great finisher. But then we saw in the Euros last year that there were times when England went at their best because he didn't seem to be able to match up to, say, the energetic high press that, say, the manager wanted at that time. So there are flaws in terms of his game, but then people still know the value that he has because he's such a great finisher. And you get the belief that with England, if he's out there, they believe they can have those moments. And he had those moments last year. So I think in some ways, I kind of go against that take on Ronaldo just that little bit, just because he just scores so many goals. And then from the other perspective, well, if he drops out, then who comes in? Because as we saw today, it's like a Gonzalo Ramos. Would you think that Gonzalo Ramos is going to be the right man to be leading Portugal towards potentially winning the World Cup? Or is there still some little bit of magic left in Ronaldo to be able to almost finish his career at the highest point? Because as we can see, he's playing in Saudi Arabia, he's played in other places, but the real joy he has comes from playing for that Portugal national side. And if he loses that, then I think we lose him as a player.
I should sort of go back a little bit here in something that I'm talking about. For me, for any striker or any front player, goals of course are important because they love the headlines. They love to be the person, the man of the moment, whatever it is. And I understand that. But looking at the Euros in 2024 and looking at the World Cup in 2022, which was when the World Cup was, wasn't it?
Yeah, late.
Yeah. It's not just the goals for me. I don't have an issue if Ronaldo is a little bit lean on the goal scoring stakes, but the performances are good and he is producing for others. But let's be honest about it. If you watched both of those competitions in 24 and 22, it wasn't just the lack of the goal threat for Portugal, it was performance. His performance level dipped in those bigger games, such to an extent where he was taken off at least once or twice and should have been taken off a couple of other games where Roberto Martinez did not do that. So, just to sort of turn the corner a little bit, it's not just, he hasn't scored 4 goals, he's done. I don't have an issue if he only pops up with 1 or 2, but the rest of his game is great because he's bringing people into play, he's playing passes, but he's not, because his actual link-up play isn't where it used to be because of age. He can't run the channels anymore in behind because of age. So when you can't do those things, and I take Nathan's point, the backups might not be any better. That might just be the case. But when you can't do those things that were once part of your tool set, all those things, then the only other thing to look at is scoring goals. And then when that doesn't happen, you then sit back and say, right, well, what's the alternative? And that's the only place I'm coming from, having seen 2022 and 2024 with the lack of goal threat, is what else is he going to bring to the team? And I'm afraid when you're, 39, 40, whatever it is, the answer is, to be truthful, not a lot.
Is that why the conversation around Cristiano Ronaldo in the World Cup is different to Lionel Messi in the World Cup?
Because he's still doing things that's affecting the game, even if he's not scoring, even if he's not beating 6 or 7 players, leaving them on the backside and scoring this magnificent goal. Cristiano Ronaldo, scissor kicks, all that sort of stuff, top corner. When they're not doing that, you have to have something else. And Messi has, and it's slightly different because he at times had, you could suggest, certainly when you looked at France and Argentina were less talented, but were more built to support Messi. All these, the Molinas, the Rodrigo de Pauls, Enzo Fernandez, they had a bunch of guys who were good players, but they were grafters, they were water carriers. Don't mean it to be disrespectful, but that they were in there to help balance out what his skill set for somebody in their mid-30s. And I thought they did that Saudi Arabia part in the first game when it went wrong. I thought they did that pretty well. The French were more talented, but the Argentinian side was more built as a unit around Lionel Messi. And he's still able to do stuff on the ball that affects the game. So you're not looking so much at, Messi never scored. Whereas for me, you're looking at a number 9 in Cristiano Ronaldo is, well, if he's not scoring goals, what else is he doing? So I think that picture is slightly murkier. And also the fact, we can sit here and have this discussion about Ronaldo at his age being still the man or not. What we can't argue about is 4 years ago, is Lionel Messi helped take Argentina to the promised land. A land that, the Diego Maradonas of this world were once taking Argentina. This discussion we're not having about Ronaldo. They beat France back in the day when Santos was the manager, in Paris in a not very good game. I think Ronaldo may have been injured in that game, came off. So he hasn't taken them to that place that Lionel Messi has taken them in. I just think there's a big question, and I think it is going to be one of the most interesting watches out of many at the World Cup is Cristiano Ronaldo's performances for Portugal, not just his goal threat. I'll be looking at his performances to see if that's going to help link up the team and make Portugal better.
It's interesting, Nathan, we talk about fixture congestion a lot, and of course the Club World Cup has added to that conversation. Given, as we said during those highlights, Cristiano Ronaldo, João Cancelo, João Felix, all playing in the Saudi League, does that help them going into the World Cup, given they're not playing in more competitive matches week in, week out?
That is a great question, and I think it's one of those where you can spin it however you like, because that same conversation was being had, say, maybe a year, 2 years ago, saying that people can't play for like their national side because the football's not competitive enough in Saudi Arabia. But as we're seeing, like, there are some managers of nations around the world who are still consistently picking those players and they're performing for their national side. Yes, it is different. That style of football is different, but you could argue that styles of football, depending on where your club side are, can be very different to your national side anyway. So yeah, from a fixture congestion standpoint, maybe it's beneficial in some ways. Maybe they're not playing at the same level they were previously. And I've got to say, like, for as much as we love club football, like, for these players, playing for the national side is everything. You know, that's a big driver as why Ronaldo's still playing now, while Messi's still playing now. And they'll find ways to make sure that they're in their best possible shape to be able to do that. And as I'm sure everyone would agree, like, playing in the World Cup, for many people, if not everyone, is the peak. It's the absolute peak. So whichever league you need to play in to give yourself a chance to do that, you'll make sure that you are ready to be available for your national side and playing whatever style it needs. So yes, I think the question about, say, player fatigue and so on, maybe some players who are based in Europe might struggle a little bit coming off the back of a long season last year, you know, the Club World Cup this summer. And I think if you make it to the Champions League, I believe like the World Cup starts maybe like 12 days later. That's going to be tough. But I don't think you'll find a player anywhere around the world that isn't going to be desperate to be there for that World Cup next summer.
Who's the lad that, his name escapes me here, Nadim, and I know you're going to have this because he's a former Man City player. Who's the centre-half? He's French, really, but he plays for Spain, and he moved to Saudi Arabia. What's his name again?
Laporte?
Laporte.
Yeah, you could have asked me.
Aymeric Laporte, yeah.
No, I couldn't ask you because you'd have given me that Glacial look again. Going, he's put me in it. I don't have the answer.
Oh, he surprised people, didn't he? And Kante did as well.
Well, that's where I was going with it. Is he performed really well for Spain at the Euros, N'Golo Kante as well. But Laporte performed really well after playing a considerable amount of time in Saudi Arabia. So I don't really think it's a major drama. You get to your country and, I've played lots of national games with players who are not playing at all and playing for the reserves at their clubs because they are out of contract or they're out of favour. That's a different scenario. And I've seen the struggles of some players trying to go from... And you think, you turn up when you're playing in the reserves, for example, and you're not in the first team at your Premier League club or wherever it is, and you say, yeah, I'm okay. I'm still playing twice a week and I'm getting game time. And then you get out there on the big stage and it's 100 miles an hour and you think, it's just not. Whereas at least playing in Saudi Arabia, it's a competitive league, and so they should be fine. That's less of an issue for Ronaldo than age, if we're being honest about it. And I know people who love Ronaldo, and I love Ronaldo. I know people who watch this think it's some sort of, being down on him. It's just an analysis of watching the 22 and the 24 competitions and taking into consideration his age. And he can bang these goals in all he wants. Honestly, he can do that all he wants. It's when you get amongst the big cheeses at the big tournaments, that's really when it matters. And you can't, it's very difficult to defy age, as you well know, and I know.
Yes.
So
Mother Nature, Father Time,
Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it. But again, I give him so much credit for wanting to do it, because he must be creeping up somewhere close to 150 to 200 caps, which is unbelievable. Because most of us lot, Stevie, me, I don't want to speak for Shaq and him, but most of us are like, I'm not going to bother this international game. I'm not going to play in a friendly. Oh, yes. He just pitches up time and time again. It's incredible.
Yeah. Just a reminder, more international.
I was happy to put Stevie in it. Not putting Shaq in it.
On the ESPN FC, which continues tomorrow. Let's hear from the man himself, Show. This is what Thomas Tuchel had to say after the game. Oh, we're going to do the standings first. There we are. England are sitting 5 points clear of Serbia then at the top of the group. Would you like to hear what Thomas Tuchel had to say, Craig?
Is he running?
Yeah, no, here he comes. There he is.
I'd rather hear him.
I like the performance. It was a good performance, a solid performance against a low block. The second goal came too late to play with maybe 100% freedom that is needed to score more. We created a lot of chances but didn't convert them. In general, with the effort and attitude, I am totally satisfied.
I remember the time on this show where you used to drive the show.
What do you mean?
Or you used to think you drove the show. Well, you called for the interview there, and you were blatantly ignored by several people behind the scenes.
That's fair enough. Right.
Nadim, a stain on your power.
Nadim, out of everyone here, you were the only one who watched this.
Okay, I watched it because I like to watch England. I like to watch them in international break. It was just a shame that it was against Andorra, though, because with all due respect to them, they never really had the physicality, the technique, or the real belief or desire to be able to get something in this game. So from them, you could see from the get-go, they were just holding on and holding on. There was a really good low block from them, but there was no real threat in transition and such. So for England, it was almost like one of those training drills where it's attack versus defence, wave after wave after wave after wave. Well, can you break them down? I think from England's standpoint, you'd want to see more chances created because you've seen from the stats there, like England's XG from this game, I think it was like 2.2. But in that Portugal game, we've just seen them have 6. That's real creativity, and that's away from home as well. And I think to really sum up how this game went, which is obviously going to be one of those games where people aren't really going to enjoy watching it, you could probably hear conversations in the crowd. That says a lot about the nature of this game itself. And yes, it wasn't at Wembley, so it's a different environment. But it was just a case of one side attacking against the other without a huge sense of urgency because they essentially knew they were in control of the game. 82% possession, people trying to do things, trying to find pockets of space, but there was no real space there. And the day when England missed their chances, so it ends up being a little bit disappointing, to be honest. And this is why some people say they hate watching England, because there are games just like this. But ultimately, as Craig said, it's all about getting ready for the tournament next summer. And I think as I was watching it, I thought to myself, England are struggling to create here, and there'll be sides who will play in a similar style at the World Cup next year, who will have a little bit more in attack. And I wonder what that could look like for England stepping up against them, because the last time England played, it was in a loss to Senegal at home as well. So I think it was good for them to get the 3 points, but still there's more work to do.
Let's hope nobody at the World Cup.
Shut up. Nadim, did anyone stand out?
Yeah, the people leaving.
Yeah, I saw quite a few people leaving. But to be honest, I quite liked Elliot Anderson in midfield. I thought he looked really dynamic. He was good at winning the ball back. He was trying to inject a bit of tempo in some of the attacks, and he took the ball under pressure as well. So I was quite impressed with him in that position, because previously, you'd see the different midfielders that would be in there, but I wouldn't have thought that he could be a starter. Going back to the last Euros, you had Kobe Mainoo in there, who's somebody who's not playing any football at the moment. So perhaps he's going to be somebody who, obviously, it's against Andorra, it's at home, it's a comfortable setting. But he took the ball well, and he was keen to try and make a difference for England. And whenever there was a chance to inject tempo, I think he did that. And I think the fact that Tuchel trusted him as well to allow Declan Rice to go forward, I think that could be a good option for them going forward. So yeah, I thought he did well. I thought Madueke did well. But ultimately, it's a game that lots of people are going to try and forget about as soon as possible.
This is the problem you've got. Is these internationals, particularly Armenia, Portugal, England, Andorra, people will say, well, the manager always learns something. Really? Really? Andorra? And this is the problem. When you have games that just put people off like this, they're not even worth a watch, unless you're just an ardent supporter. Is the more that FIFA open up these World Cups to more teams and inflate it as they are doing, it seems within every couple of tournaments, the more games you're going to see like this. And that's not what World Cups are all about. And I'm not denying smaller countries an opportunity to get to major competitions, but you have to have a certain amount of ability to go and make a match of it. And these countries, a lot of them do not. And the more you just open it up to the qualification process being more simplistic and easier, then the World Cup becomes, the early stages of it become much like the early stages of World Cup qualifying. And it's off-putting, because the whole point about these elite level tournaments is to get there and match up as best as you can, the best with the best. And it has to, and it's super competitive. And nobody wants to switch on a World Cup and see games with 80 and 85% possession. You just don't. And I don't give a stuff if there's anybody out there saying, well, yeah, because it'd be nice to see these. No, it wouldn't be nice to see them at the tournament, because nobody wants to watch them. Nobody wants to watch them, and that's just, I'm not being nasty, it's a fact of life. And I, for one, don't, and it's why I'm so much against making major tournaments inflated, because it dilutes the quality. And that's why these World Cup qualifiers, a lot of them early on, are just such a tough watch. Because there's just no competitive edge to these games, and it becomes like just a drab, wet drip of a game, which most England games these days is. And I think this is a big problem for Thomas Tuchel. I think there's an element of the fan base in England who support England, and I think there's a big element of the journalists who follow this team are thinking, is he going to have the drive to push this team forward? Is he going to be any better than Gareth Southgate? You might say, well, when it comes to the crunch moments and the crux decisions, he's got more of a tactical nous than Gareth Southgate. You can pitch that argument forward because of the success he's had. But he's going to have to go and prove that. At times when Southgate never made a substitution or a change in midfield or a change of shape, that's what they're looking for from Thomas Tuchel. And I think there is a grave danger that he might be the rabbit in the headlights when it comes to doing that again. And I think the English media are I think if he does great, they will laud him. And if he is average, they're going to absolutely pan him.
Meanwhile, Monday, of course, saw the closing of the transfer window. You can still loan players out, though, and that is exactly what Manchester United are looking to do, because Onana's on his way to Turkey. That is why this move couldn't go ahead. It'll be a loan move, according to reports. Of course, United brought in the young Belgian goalkeeper Lemons at the end of the transfer window. It looks like Onana is on his way out at Old Trafford. Nathan, what a mess this is.
Yeah, if he ends up leaving, what a horrendous spell that's been. I think when he first came across, like I saw him, he's playing in the Champions League final for Inter Milan. He's such a big part of what they were as a team before that at Ajax. And then to come to United and to not even essentially leave any sort of form of legacy, like it's hugely disappointing from his standpoint. And with the replacement coming in there, Lammers, I think his name is, that's tough as well. You've been replaced this early with the new manager, with the manager's been there literally 6 months or whatever it is. But then we can kind of see why. We can see some of the errors. You can see the confidence sort of being drained away from him, and the confidence from the manager as well, losing his faith in sort of what he can be as a goalkeeper. I think when he first came in, we all obviously knew about his shot stopping, but we thought, he's going to help United with the build-out. He's going to be great in the ball and all that. But in the 2 years or however long he's been there, we've not seen that as people watching Manchester United. So yeah, it's ended up being essentially what would be classed as a flop, which is a shame from his perspective, because he should have enjoyed those years. He could have been helping United get onto that next level, but instead he almost joins like a list of goalkeepers who've ended up being a parody at United, because you see him, people mention like Taibbi and others in relation to how bad a spell it was, and he should never have been like that, because this was one of the best goalkeepers in the world at the time, and now he's trying to find a move outside the transfer window to go to Turkey, to Trabzonspor. So yeah, it's a shame from his perspective, but he's still young enough to be able to find more form and play well somewhere else.
Can we see that graphic again, guys? Can we put that graphic up again?
I'm sure, yes. What has caught your eye?
Well, let's put it up and I'll tell you what's caught. The one at the bottom caught my eye. Save percentage is 21st.
Yes.
So not very good, yeah?
Not very good, yes.
So how the hell can you be goals prevented second? What's goals prevented? What's goal? I'm going to go on a rant now about goals prevented. What kind of guff is that? Goals prevented.
I'll tell you the rest of the stats.
No, but I mean seriously, I think goalkeeping stats most of the time are a lot of nonsense anyway. But that one at the bottom, I feel like I'm going to run over there and 2 foot that TV. Goals prevented.
Another player who's gone to Manchester United and got worse.
Yeah, got worse. Not been able to marshal the back four. Spent, it's cost a lot of money. You can throw in Anthony, Jadon Sancho, the Casemiro, who's still there. The list.
Ugarte.
Oh, Jesus. Ugarte. I mean, he's just been absolutely. I mean, he's nothing. He's just like a wet blanket. You put him in with the kids, even the kids would be going, who the hell's this guy? Seriously, he's just. I've not seen.
Right, we're on Onana, we're not on Ugarte.
Huh?
We're on Onana.
No, I know, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And Onana. I thought he was going to, as Nathan said, he looked the real deal when he was in Italy and when he was in Holland. And I thought he was going to come in and have this sort of Schmeichel-esque air of, aura about him, where, bossing about. Remember he was bossing about Harry Maguire, and Harry Maguire had a go at him. I cannot wait if this new youngish lad from Belgium comes in and is flapping about all over the place. It's going to be a mess, isn't it? So, but Altay Bayendia, they can't play him because he might be okay in the old shot stopping routine, which is a goalkeeper, by the way. That's what he's paid for. He's absolutely, and I mean absolutely, useless on balls into the box, set pieces. So this new lad that comes in has to be able to, communicate, marshal a back four, be good with the ball at his feet, make saves, and he has to have an authority and make a statement when teams are rattling the ball in the box, because that's what every team's going to do now. As soon as they get crosses in the box, long throws, corner kicks, they're going to pile it on under this goalkeeper, and they're going to act. Well, that's what I would do. That's what, if I was in the dressing room playing Man United, I'd say, new keeper, the keepers are all rubbish. Any set pieces, anything we get under the crossbar, get everybody forward, we pile in, get a couple of elbows and arms in his face, see if he likes it. And that's what I would do. And he's going to sink or swim, because they went half-hearted down the route of Martinez at Villa, and I think that would have been the perfect scenario for them, because he's got an arrogance. He's got an arrogance as well as being a really good goalkeeper. He's got a self-confidence and an arrogance that they need. But they've gone the other route again, and we have absolutely no idea how this young lad is going to handle this scenario.
Nadim, how do you think the back four's feeling?
That's a very loaded question there, especially since they play back three as well. But I think in some ways they're just looking for someone with more consistency. I think, as Craig was alluding to there, we just for United, they don't need a goalkeeper to be amazing. But from all the list of the stats that were up there, the one where it's tied most for errors leading to goals, you can't, at some point as a defender, that starts to affect you, because you start to almost expect it. The ball's been rolled back to him. Do you trust him wholeheartedly, or could something happen? There's a weak shot going towards goal. Do you trust him in a moment to be able to save that guaranteed? Is he a calming presence, or is he somebody that makes you play in a slightly different manner? Excuse me. And unfortunately for Onana, through these last 2 years, he's not really bred confidence within that back line. And again, given how it started, I thought that would be the case, but it's the exact opposite. And it's a shame, because he is a good goalkeeper. But now when he's spoken about from, say, a United perspective, if you hear his name mentioned, people usually saying, oh, he's made another mistake. He's made another mistake, and it's cost us a goal. He's done this and he's done that. And I think what they need is a goalkeeper whose name will not really be mentioned, a goalkeeper who will just be in there, will be as consistent as can be, not really be making those errors, making saves, and goals will always go in, but just don't have your fingerprints on so many of them, because they're very hard to forget once they start continuing to happen.
But you've got to find out what his weak points are, if he's got any, and as experienced players and defenders, you've got to give him some sort of support, which they should have been doing with Bayendia, because they knew he was weak at crosses, and yet they exposed him to that. When I was at Celtic, we had a goalkeeper, Johnny Gould, who came up from Coventry and Bradford. He was struggling at the time, and we had an injury. He got a chance. He got a short-term move. He came in, 97-98 season, and he was absolutely brilliant. I mean, brilliant shot-stopping, Goldie. I hope he sees this. He's out in New Zealand or something now.
I doubt he will.
Well, he might do, because he likes looking at himself. If he hears his name mentioned, he'll click the video. Goldie was a brilliant lad. He made some great saves. But he would tell you himself, right? And crosses into the box, he was a nightmare. He wouldn't come off his line if the winning lottery ticket was on the 6-yard line. Right. He wouldn't do it. And we knew that. Alan Stubbs knew it, Matt Reaper knew it, Tommy Boyd knew it. So they knew that they were going to have to defend the 6-yard box. It's a bit like when Jim Leighton was at Aberdeen. Willie Miller and Alec McLeish had to head the ball away, because Jim's strong point wasn't crosses. Goldie was the same. So you got to figure out, and so they used to berate him for not coming off his line, but we knew he wasn't coming off his line. And you have to figure out what your teammate, whether it's midfield or whether Nadim's playing with another centre-half, what's my other centre-half's weak points and his strong points? What do I need to cover? It's no different with a goalkeeper. Is he weak with kicking? Is he weak with crossing? Is he not the most physical? What is it? And then you have to figure out a way to try and protect him as best as possible. United, as bad as the goalkeepers have been, United haven't done that with their goalkeepers. They've exposed them and they've been found out. So whatever this young lad is uncomfortable with, he better get it out quick in the dressing room and say, listen, do this to help me, and do that. But, if they leave him exposed and he's back. And by the way, somebody, I don't know if it was somebody in jest, said the scouting report on him was that he was a little suspect on crosses into the box.
Lovely.
Whether that's true or not, we'll find out.
Well, we'll indeed find out. Extra time, as always, is available on our YouTube channel, Nadim and Craig, answering your questions. Mauricio Pochettino hasn't exactly lit the world alight, has he, since taking over from the US men's national team? In fact, they're playing right now and they're losing 1-0 at home against South Korea. What I want to discuss is what we had a chat about yesterday, was those comments that he gave in an interview this week talking about the US's potential in the World Cup.
¿Qué se espera de ti en Estados Unidos cara al Mundial? Siendo la selección anfitriona, pero no es...
No puedo meter goles. No puedo meter goles yo, ni puedo defender.
¿Tendrás una buena selección? ¿Podéis aspirar a algo grande? ¿O no?
Eso es lo que queremos, ¿no? Hay que... Estamos en ese proceso yo creo que es de cambiar un poquito la mentalidad, ¿no? Es de que el soccer se entienda como el fútbol aquí. Si no entendemos eso, si los jugadores de fútbol vuelven a Estados Unidos pensando que es un espectáculo y que hay que divertir a las masas, a la gente, va a ser difícil de competir y hacer un buen papel.
Nadim still with us. Craig, what do you make it? It's such a softball question. How do you think the US can do in the World Cup? Well, we're going to fight. We've got home support. You know, I think we've got a chance at least to make it through to the knockout stages. Instead, Pochettino takes a completely different route.
As you well know, I'm not Major League Soccer's biggest fan. It's for other people. I have other things to get my head around. But I've noticed the game growing here and the amount of people who are interested in the game and knowledgeable about the game. And I think it is extremely disrespectful for a manager with his experience and the current coach of the US men's national team to suggest the soccer fraternity and soccer people in the US, particularly the ones that watch it week in, week out, don't take it seriously and only see it as an entertainment. I think that's a kick in the guts to people that actually do. Now we can discuss the mechanics of how Major League Soccer works and where players go and trades and we can discuss all that, promotion, relegation, till the cows come home. That's what they do. But to suggest that they don't get it, I need to change their mentality because they don't understand. It's totally disrespectful. If I was an American fan or a player of that, I would be more than annoyed by that. And I'd also be more than annoyed by his sort of chuckling answer about, I presume it's an Argentinian journalist.
Spanish.
I don't score goals. No, but you took the job. You took the job and the money, and you knew what the scenario was. You didn't score goals at Tottenham. You didn't score goals at Chelsea. You didn't score goals at PSG or Southampton or wherever it is, but you took the job because it was your job to make sure others were in a good position to do so. What's different here? The only thing he's doing here is making early excuses for his tenure this far as the manager of this team has been poor. His squad selections have been poor and baffling. His team's performances have been poor. His team's results have been poor. But on top of that, to suggest the people this side of the pond, basically he's saying they don't get it. I think we can argue with some of our colleagues at different channels about their opinions and their take on the game. That's one thing. But to suggest people don't get it from a side, by the way, in the US that were a really bad refereeing decision back 20 years ago from being in the semi-final of a World Cup with the Kellers and the McBrides and the Ronaldo and all these guys that have been top players. Was it only entertainment to them? Did they not get it 20 years ago? And somehow, frankly, he would be annoying me. If I was really into the US, which I'm not, I'll follow it. But if I was really into the US and I was a little bit prickly about it, he would have annoyed me. Because he's doing very little on the field and he's shuffling everything away from him off the field. And as you said, they're playing now and they're getting beat. And if they get beat again, there'll be even more questions coming his way. But I didn't like the answers and the tone of his voice and the kind of, it's not me.
Nadim?
Yeah, I think I would agree with some of that. Like, I don't know if he's necessarily talking about fans or if he was talking about players there, but I think from my perspective, looking at it, even the fact that he's talking about a transition, like a transition feels like such a long-term thing, but we're talking about them hosting a World Cup in less than 12 months' time. I think I'd want to feel excited as a fan to know that the team's actually really on the front foot. It's really starting to play in a manner which we can expect to see next year. Because to be able to host it and to not have to go through these qualifiers, it should be exciting. Fans, come down, come and watch us, watch how great we are. Watch us beat this team. We're going to invite teams from Asia, from Europe, from South America. We're going to show you how good we're going to compete against these guys. But instead, it's like, here's an issue, there's an issue, here's another issue, here's a change in this guy's been dropped because of this, there's infighting, we're picking the wrong people. And all the while, like Pochettino, from where I'm sitting, culturally doesn't seem to really fit in with, say, what America is in terms of how they sort of see this sport, because we all know America's got a really significant winning culture across all the sports that they have. So fans will be thinking that, next year, it's not guaranteed. They're not saying that they'll go and win it as such, but they expect to be competitive because, as Craig said, not that long ago, they were within like a refereeing decision being in like the final four of like a world competition. So to get a chance to host it again with players playing around the world, players who are big deals for their clubs, and now you've got a manager in Mauricio Pochettino with that sort of like caliber, things shouldn't be in the position that they're in. And I think the way that he was talking about it at the start, I can't score the goals, I can't score this, I can't score that, is not really the rousing, really like patriotic sound that you want to hear from your national team manager. But thankfully for him, he's got more time to be able to get people on side, because as every week passes and every international break passes, it seems like there are more issues as opposed to people having a clear vision about what's going to be a great summer for them, and arguably for them as well, as big a summer as they'll ever have in their lives, because the USA is hosting their own tournament, their own football tournament.
Leagues Cup decided that Luis Suarez be banned for 6 matches. Busquets for 2, of course, for throwing the punch. Aviles for 3. Lenhart, the Seattle coach, for 5. We're still yet to hear from MLS. So what that ban means is that Luis Suarez will miss the next 6 Leagues Cup games. In theory, he won't even be playing for Miami next time that competition comes around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how this all works, but if MLS and Don Garber and all these people can shuffle it to the side and don't have to be seen to be making a big decision, I think they'd be pretty happy with that. I don't know if they have the ability or should be banning him, because it's
absolutely. MLS have got they can do whatever they want. Well, they are within their right to ban him now.
Look, Major League Soccer, I said this the other day, and Julian Laron's made a good point. Inter Miami should be sanctioning him first and foremost. That's his club. That's who pays his wages. The ownership of that club. Are they saying they can have this stain on their reputation and not be seen to be doing anything about it? Spitting on an opposing coach, disgusting, repulsive behaviour. We've seen it before from Suarez. You can come out and apologise all you want. You don't spit on people. You just don't. It's not normal. It's not normal. And Inter Miami need to sanction him. Leagues Cup, I'm sure he doesn't really give a toss about playing in the Leagues Cup, to be honest. But Major League Soccer have to come out here because he's on their platform. He's a Major League Soccer player, plays for one of the big teams here. He's highly paid. They're trying to sell their product around the world, which they are. They're trying the best. They have to make a statement and say, you cannot come here and think it's a jolly up and you're free to do what you want. You can't. You just can't pitch up here in the United States and it's lawless. You have to have parameters. And if Major League Soccer don't come down on him like a ton of bricks, then what's that saying to everybody else, Dan? Yeah, you can spit on him if you want. You can do that. You can't do that. It doesn't matter if it's an 18-year-old who's playing his first game or a man who's played in the World Cup and done it all. You have to make a statement. And Major League Soccer, whether we like it or not, have a propensity to try and shuffle stuff like this under the carpet. And if you've got a problem with that, then just look at the history. So they have to make a big statement. And it has to be a minimum 6 games, minimum, with a huge fine. Otherwise, you might as well just put the bolt on and lock the door.
My danger, as Craig was saying there, is this like existence at times within MLS of having like, almost like a two-tiered system. Because for every Suarez and so on, like you've got people who've maybe come through college, people aren't earning a ton of money, but they're the ones where if they did the same thing, not only would MLS come in straight away, you'd probably never see them playing football in North America again. But for Suarez, like we're spending a bit of time to think what's the best solution. Maybe it's because, this guy's he's friends with Messi, it's into Miami, it's really good for the marketing, we have his history. Forget all that. All these professionals in the league are professionals. Treat them the same way. And if someone is going to have this sort of issue in terms of spitting at somebody, deal with it in the heaviest way possible so that everybody in the league knows this will not be accepted. The moment you offer a little chink into a double standard, I think you lose so many players. So as a consequence, like as I say, this should have been dealt with by now, by Inter Miami, by MLS. But instead, all we're seeing is like the apology from Luis Suarez. Listen, it's very easy to seek forgiveness after you've done something that disgusting. Well, how about just don't do that in the first place? And he's lucky because essentially, I think most people he'd come across, if they were spat upon, I don't think that would be the end of the matter because that's as dirty as it comes, not least of all in professional sport.
It's a free hit for Major League Soccer, isn't it? Because let's be honest about it. I would imagine, unless he's an absolute nutcase, I'd imagine Luis Suarez is expecting something and would be, if Major League Soccer were to say you're banned for 8 games or you're banned for 6 or you're banned for 10 and here's a fine, I wouldn't imagine Luis Suarez would be coming out kicking and stomping because he knows what he's done. So it's really a free hit for Major League Soccer to say, right, that's unacceptable. We need to come down on you like a ton of bricks. And unless he's not right in the head, Luis Suarez would have to go, it's what I did was unacceptable and I have to face the consequences. So I don't really see what the issue here is. It's not like he's going to fight it because the evidence is so compelling into what he did.
And he's already come out and admitted it and apologised.
And he's apologised, which is falling on deaf ears all the way around because, as Nedum said, he's already done it and it's such a repulsive act and it's not normal. But, you Major League Soccer, you've nothing really that you're not going to burn your bridges because the player has to accept and already has what he's done.
Just a reminder, this conversation continued, of course, on Football Americas. In case you missed, you can check out the latest edition, which is available to stream now. Meanwhile, Monday, Sebi is joined by Casey and Ali. I'm sure a big post-mortem as to what is happening at the moment between the US and South Korea. Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you very much for your questions. Craig is with us. We also welcome Nedum, who was part of the Masters tournament for Manchester City this weekend. And clearly it's taken its toll, Nedum. You sound rough, mate. What's happened?
Do you know what it is? So, obviously these days get paid to talk. But being in that arena yesterday, I had to shout. And I've not had to shout like that for a long time. I've completely lost my voice. Pathetic. So out of shape.
So tell me this. Did Liverpool were there. Did McManaman play for Liverpool?
No, it wasn't that. They couldn't afford McManaman.
No.
It wasn't that sort of budget.
Oh, no, it wasn't that sort of Masters.
Yeah.
It was, if you've ever been to Liverpool,
no.
That's enough.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, there's no McManaman, there was no Luis Garcia, so it was that next tier down of Masters. Yeah, that's myself included.
Macca's not as bad as Luis Garcia, but Luis is incredible.
I think he's in Rwanda at the moment with gorillas.
What, doing some charity stuff?
I don't know what he's doing, but it looked really cool. He was like, there's a gorilla and there's Luis Garcia.
I mean, he'd got the opening of a packet of chips, wouldn't he? I mean, Luis comes downstairs at night and opens the fridge just to shine a light on himself.
Oh, come on.
He goes to everything, doesn't he? Hello, do you want to come? How much you paying me? I'll be there.
Yeah,
Macca's just behind them, by the way. Macca slips in behind them.
Yeah.
Not quite as busy.
Right.
But Macca's, he likes the dough.
Well, who doesn't? Nedum, how big of a loss would Saliba be for Arsenal? Of course, reports that he's going to be out for a month. Next 3 games are Forest, City and Newcastle.
Yeah, he's very, very good, but I think Arsenal would be able to find a way because they're still defensively very solid, and I think the people coming in, with all due respect to, say, a couple of years ago, are probably of a slightly higher standing right now than Rob Holding was the last time he was out for a little period of time. Say, I think when they were playing Man City and so on, trying to go for the league title. So he will be a blow. But 1 month of no William Saliba, I think is manageable for Arsenal at this moment in time.
So Mosquera, who they signed from Spain, came on at Liverpool. He's a centre-half. Hurricane Timber can play centre-half. Calafiore is actually a centre-half playing at left-back. So Miles Lewis-Skelly could play there if need be.
So no big deal?
Well, it's not ideal, but I think it's the whole point of what we discussed over the summer, both with them and Liverpool. It was having the squad depth and for moments like this, and they certainly have.
Nadim, should the Premier League, like La Liga, enact mandatory release clauses so the Isak visa situation doesn't happen again and all parties have a mutual understanding?
I don't know. I don't know how you sort of bring that to the Premier League within everyone's contract, so I'm not 100% sure on that. I think the Isak situation is, for me, more of an outlier, and it's because the player has that level of status and he's going to a club like Liverpool. How common that type of thing is, for me, isn't going to be that regular, is it? So I don't think it needs to fundamentally change the way transfers work in the UK because of it, but it's just a reminder that people who have those types of assets, you need to make sure that they maybe don't overpromise. And if they do that, they need to have a get out for themselves as well.
Did you ever have a release clause, Nathan?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. It was a really high one.
Yeah.
It was £3.75 million, and nobody paid it.
Wow.
But you know, it's not about that. It's about the efforts I put in for my other club. Yeah.
3.75. Look at that, Nathan. Back in the day, love it. Did you have one?
No. I wish it was back in the day, Dan. I wish it was back in the day. That's not that long ago. That's the problem.
No, that's,
3.75.
That's true.
No, I didn't.
No. Do you think people should have them? Should they
I didn't know that. I wasn't aware.
Yeah, I think like Ronaldo's was $1 billion.
Did they have mandatory release clauses in La Liga? I don't.
Yeah, so everybody has to have a release clause, but obviously they put it to such a silly number.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like
a
couple of transfers, but no release clauses.
No. Nathan, why does Manchester City want to get rid of Akanji, a player with so much experience who was part of a team that won everything?
Yeah, I was surprised at that, to be honest, especially given the fact he can play, say, right back. He's obviously done very well at centre back. And it looked in the past like Pep trusted him. You know, this is somebody that started the Champions League final over, say, like a Kyle Walker, for example. Also, in fact, John Stones played right back in that Champions League final. So yeah, I was quite surprised. I think he's a solid player to have in that setup. And he's also been somebody who, not as often as John Stones, but would dip into midfield as well. So yeah, I'm very surprised. But I think for the size of the squad that they had, someone had to leave. And maybe in the end it had to be one of those right-sided players because, you know, they seem to have the balance elsewhere.
After the success the NFL is experiencing with international regular season games, why doesn't the Premier League or other European leagues do the same? Scheduling such matches before international breaks would resolve the impacts on teams because of travel.
Well, the NFL's trying to grow the game around the world because it's not a global sport. It's very much an Americanized sport.
It's going to be at the Bernabeu, isn't it, this season, I think?
Is it?
I think so.
So they are taking the game out to garner interest from
Brazil last night.
Outside.
Shall I just keep interrupting you with facts?
You know, soccer, as you well know, Premier League, La Liga, all these big teams, it's already a global sport. And when you see some of the NFL guys around here, I haven't seen them recently, they think they think the Super Bowl's the biggest, greatest thing in the history of sport. It's not. It's not, and that's what they're trying to build it outside of America, where a World Cup final, there isn't a country in the world where they're not watching. That's the difference. I wouldn't like to see it. I know there's been talk about a La Liga game coming here to the States, and some are fighting it, some are not. You know, all right, it would be great for us, and we could go down, and if the budget accepted it,
we could go down.
Well, it's got to be in New York, isn't it? It'd be in New York.
No, it'd be in Miami.
All right, be in Miami. It's still down, isn't it?
We'll stay at Kieran's.
So, I'm not a big fan, actually, of taking that out, taking a sport that's already big outside of a country and taking a game out to play it abroad. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist in that sense.
Craig,
NFL can do what the hell they want.
Craig, Isak was training away from Newcastle in Spain. The Manchester United outcast are training after the other first team left. Have you ever trained alone from the team? What gaps did you encounter when returning to the team? How long to get back up to speed?
No. Oh, actually, I did. Obviously, when I was at Derby at the end, it was a mess. When I was leaving Celtic to go to Derby with Kenny Dalglish, John Barnes, that was a bit of a prolonged contract.
So were you training at all then? You obviously weren't with the first team.
When I was at Celtic?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was just the financial implications for me and the club and everything just meant it probably went on about a month. In fact, the deal went dead for a while. But it was quite funny because I'd go back in the dressing room and the lads would be like really giving it to me, you know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and it was fun. It wasn't fun for Kenny. He probably hated it.
Well,
Kenny Dalglish, because I would,
add his name to the list.
As you well know, every day I went in, I was rubbing his nose on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't. To be fair to them, I wasn't. They never said. Barnsley and all them never said go and train over there. Right. I was still training with the guys. But at Derby under John Gregory, I was like.
You were ostracised completely.
Oh, I was completely ostracised. Yeah, and I was a club captain at the time. But there was just let's just say there was a personality clash.
So what did you do with your training schedule then?
Well, actually, and I mean this in all sincerity, I actually was going to sue them at one point. I didn't do it because it would have become a mess. I wasn't getting the proper medical treatment that I should have been. Because I was so ostracised, I was basically at the back of the treatment room and everybody else was first. And I had to take myself down to Lilleshall, the National Training Centre in England, to get that rehab. Now, Lilleshall is not for Premier League footballers per se. Mm-hmm. Lilleshall is for clubs further down the pyramid that just don't have the expertise and the finances and the ability to maybe deal with big situations. It's not for me, international footballer. It's for guys that are at clubs like Exeter City and Torquay and all these that don't have what's needed. And yet here was me here with all these footballers from the lower leagues, and they were all good lads, because I wasn't getting what I needed at that club. And at that point, that was a disgrace. The whole thing was a mess at that point. But at one point, I did think about taking legal action, and then I thought, it's not worth it, because these kind of things are so protracted out, it's just going to be a mess. But yeah, it's very, very frustrating. And when you want to get fit and you want to be helping, then that side of it is frustrating. But I've seen guys being ostracised. I saw David Rocastle, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us, former Arsenal player, Leeds United, Man City, great player, Dave Rocastle, and a lovely lad, lost his life very, very early. I saw Ruud Gullit just completely ostracise him at Chelsea, and all the boys felt sorry for him because he was such a nice guy. And I saw what it did to Dave Rocastle. Dave Rocastle was part of that Arsenal team that beat Stevie at Anfield when they won the league.
In 1989. So
he'd been there and seen it, and to see a guy treated like that, and to see what it did to him, there's just no need, and that was bad management.
Nedum, you've quite literally written the book on ostracised situations. What was it? How difficult was it to get back to fitness?
Well, in fairness, I was training with the under-18, so in terms of just general fitness, it was fine. But in terms of actually playing fit, in terms of being alongside other professionals, it did take a while. But in fairness to Mancini, he made sure that I was not of any use for the next 3 months anyway. But the funniest thing for me was on the last day of the transfer window, I took all my stuff, put it into a black bag, said goodbye to everyone because I was 100% sure I was going to go and make a move. Sitting in front of the TV watching that transfer bar go around and my name never get called was one of the most humiliating nights of my life. I thought, until I went back into training the next day with the same bin bag saying, hello everybody, I am back. And to make matters worse, the first game that City had after that was a Champions League game, City's first ever Champions League game against Napoli at home. And then I was in the squad for it. Can you make that make sense? I'd been in the bin for a month straight. Wow. Then I was in the Champions League squad for their first ever game. Talk about mental warfare, and it was just part of some things happened in that next few months. Because, for example, I think it was the November international break. Roberto Mancini was really big into people having time off into international break if you didn't play for a national side. So I trained with the first team now for the next 2-3 months, and he said on the Thursday, after this game on Saturday, everyone's going to be off until the following Monday. So myself, that's me, that's everyone, that's everybody in the training ground. Brilliant. So I booked a trip away. I was actually supposed to be going to Dubai with my wife. And then on Saturday, after the game finished, I wasn't in the squad, but I got a text saying, you're not off. You've got to come in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was myself and Wayne Bridge. And to make matters worse, after I got that message through, I tried to call the manager, rang out a few times, tried to call him again, sent it to voicemail, and I didn't hear anything from him. And the following Saturday, when we came into train, during the week it was myself, Bridgie and a couple of the youngsters. On that Saturday, it was just myself and Bridgie doing a gym session.
Wow.
Dan Thomas.
Was there ever a point you went, no, stuff you, I'm going to Dubai?
No, because this is the problem. Like, people believe that there's player power, but it's player power in certain contexts.
Sure.
Because for myself, for Wayne, and for these others, if we decided to not come into training, all of a sudden it starts to cost us money. So even though we're contracted to train and to play, if they push us to the side, that's fine for them. If we decide we're not going to turn up, then we're the bad guys and we're going to be the ones who are going to be suffering financially.
Final question. Craig, I watched Mr. Brown's Boys documentary on YouTube recently. This was a documentary about the '98 Scotland side. How special was the hype and fever around your Scotland team, and how did you guys handle the pressure?
Well, there wasn't a lot of hype around what we were going to achieve. But bearing in mind we were in a group with Brazil, Norway, who were, I think, ranked 5th at the time in the world, in a decent side. Jan wasn't in it, obviously.
Obviously.
Solskjaer was on the bench, obviously. And actually a very good Moroccan side.
Right.
Very good, which we didn't realise until we played them in the final game and we got walloped.
Which you watched from the bar.
Which I got sent off. I may have kicked a Moroccan lad in the second half. But the hype was around playing in the opening game of the World Cup.
Right.
So basically the opening ceremony at Stade de France was the fanfare. This was going to kick the World Cup off, and it was Scotland-Brazil. So that was huge. Doesn't get much. If you're a Scotland player, it doesn't get much bigger than that, because Scotland are not going to win the World Cup. So obviously, not even. They've never even came close. So opening it's probably the next most special thing. And then you're playing Brazil, and it was the Brazil side. I can't remember them all, but Tafarel, Rivaldo, Dunga, Ronaldo, Cafu, Roberto Carlos, all that. So that was really what everybody in Scotland was looking forward to going into it. Maybe not so much us.
Yeah.
Although we were looking forward to it, of course you were. But in your mind, there was a little bit of you saying, please don't let this be embarrassing. You know what I mean? Even though you had this competitive edge and we were actually a pretty good side, things could get messy quickly.
Sure.
So when we said keep it, when we lost a goal after 3 minutes, this was a problem. But then
in the end it was what, 2-1?
2-1. Yeah, we won 1 at half time, and then they piled the pressure on second half, and unfortunately ball came off Tommy Boyd, ricochet into the net, 70 odd minutes. But it was decent, but that was the hype. And then we played Norway, and there was still an expectation about getting out of the group. A defeat would have meant we couldn't qualify, but we got a draw in the Norway game, which meant the last game was alive. But Morocco, and we played poorly that night, but they were actually a very good side. I'm saying very, right. And I felt sorry for them in a sense, because they beat us 3-0. They thought they'd qualified, but unbeknown to them, Norway had beaten Brazil, and so Morocco were out. I mean, that's whether Brazil mailed it in or not, I don't know, because I didn't see that game. But Norway beat Brazil to make it through, so it was a bonkers group. But
and then Brazil obviously made it to the final, and
then Ronaldo wasn't well and wasn't going to play.
Well, and then it's all about a certain Frenchman, but
Frank Leboeuf.
We don't need to mention him.
No.
Naden, good luck on the radio tomorrow. What a great listen that's going to be.
What is he on?
Make sure you tune in, yeah.
5 Live?
I'll send you a link, Dan.
Yeah, as you always do.
Are you on 5 Live again?
Oh, it's every Sunday he's on the radio.
Is he?
Blabbering away.
Apparently there is a ratings thing on a Sunday that the radio listeners go down.
Yeah, there is, and there's a lot of comments about Face for Radio and all the others, but there we are. Naden, thank you very much.
Sure.
ESPN FC will be back tomorrow. I'm sure tomorrow they'll be looking back at the US.
No, they're looking back at England and Andorra.
No, US, what's the score? 2-0.
Oh my God. Pochettino, he doesn't score goals.
He doesn't.